I'd like to talk about the heat and our mental health. But before we get into that, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Ghazala at the Heart and Soul Cafe. If you've been here before, thank you so much for coming back. And if you're here for the first time, then you're very, very welcome. Now, the heat. So we are currently in London town going through a heat wave. And I think the temperature's been about 33, I think 30, 34 degrees, and that's quite warm. And it's not just that it's warm underneath the sun rays are quite strong, so you do feel that burning sensation on your skin quite, pretty quickly if you're under the sun. Now, so why am I making this video? Well, I was out yesterday afternoon and I was for a while stuck in some traffic. There were some roadworks going on, and actually there was no roadworks going on, but some of the lanes were actually closed off, and some of you all know exactly what I'm talking about. But how many times do we see lanes closed off by those road cones, and when you actually go past the actual area, there isn't actually any work going on at all, and you think, well, why have they closed off the road? And it might be like that day in, day out, and there's not, you don't actually see a workman there's no workman in sight. Now, what we can find then sometimes is people are stuck in traffic and it's hot and people are getting, dehydrated perhaps, and not everyone has air conditioning. Some people are there with the, windows down, and some people have got music blaring out, and forcing everyone else around them to listen to their, genre of music. It might not be your genre that, you're into, but anyway, there you are. So what happens then? Well, people's stress levels go up, because of that heat. And then what happens? Well, people get annoyed, people get frustrated, people get angry, people get all riled up and so quite quick to, short-tempered perhaps. And I saw a bit of that yesterday when I was out in the afternoon. First of all, as I said, I was stuck in some traffic. And then, you could tell that people were started getting a bit frustrated because people were started honking their horn at don't know who. And then because one person honks their horn, someone else goes, and before you know it, you've got this orchestra going along with some music coming out and blaring out of someone's car. That's, whatever, probably not music that I'd want to listen to, but I'm forced then to listen to it. And what you then see is people get, sort of short-tempered, and then I went to do some shopping, and I found, people in, queues were sort of getting a little bit annoyed with each other, and I felt, the vibes weren't very good yesterday. And it's hot and we do get a little bit, but it's quite important, I feel, to be not so, we all have to be in control, because sometimes, things do happen, and, someone may really annoy us and someone might cut us up or whatever. But if we live in a country where, we have a lot of cold weather, and we have a lot of, days where you don't feel like leaving the house, and the days are so short as well, it gets dark at, 3:30, 4:15 in the afternoon. That's it, that's the end of your day, and which isn't very good for our, vitamin D levels, and you get sad as well, seasonal affective disorder as a result of that. And here we've got such long days. The day starts at about 3:30 in the morning, and it doesn't get dark till 9:30 at night, so it's a very long day. And I feel that, we should embrace that, as a positive. Yes, it is warm. Yes, it can feel uncomfortable. And yes, we need to be probably mindful about how much, water we're drinking, fluid that we're having, maybe not drinking, gallons and gallons of coffee, even if it's iced coffee, because if you're drinking lots and lots of caffeine, if you're taking in lots of caffeine, it's going to, dehydrate you. It's going to, make you feel thirsty. And if you're not getting enough water because we're having this heat wave, you can become quite, dehydrated quite quickly. So it's quite important to make sure that, you are, just because the temperature of that drink is cold, you still have to look at the content of that drink and the, ingredients that goes into it. And yes, heat, feeling, the heat and feeling, overheated will increase your cortisol levels, so your stress hormones. So then you need to make sure that you put things into place to, bring those down. And that might be when you get in, having a really cool shower, just, sitting with a fan on perhaps, and just, sort of calming down and cooling down. And not, maybe, getting, short-tempered and aggravated and agitated with the person next to you. And, because of the heat, there's, especially in England, we have so much of the cold weather that, we should celebrate some warmth that we do have. Yeah, so I just felt that it was quite important to sort of make this video and just sort of raise awareness about how people do behave. And if you are feeling, frustrated because of the heat, to not take it out on others in a way that you wouldn't otherwise, but just, think about, cooling yourself down a little bit and, calming down, taking deep breaths in and out. And, I've talked about meditation before, and I've also talked about, so I'm doing mini meditations in places like if you're in your car, queue, in a queue in the car, sort of in a, sort of a traffic jam, is to, do that inhaling and exhaling slowly and just concentrating on your breathing, because it will calm you right down. If you're feeling slightly frustrated with the person in front of you, just inhale, exhale, to just calm you down. And you probably won't feel quite as frustrated, especially, when you're in the car, in queues at the, grocery store or the, supermarket. Just make sure that you do practice that deep breathing, and then, exhale, inhale, and take those deep, slow breaths in order to just keep calm. And it will also help, just because when you calm down, you'll just relax a little bit more. You won't be so frustrated in the heat. You'll just hopefully calm yourself down. And I feel that that's a good thing. That's a good thing. So let's try and be have a little bit more patience for others, because we can all make mistakes. We can all, when we're driving as well, and we can all get in other people's way and stuff. But it's okay. Just I think we need to have a little bit of patience and show a little bit of empathy for others. And the other thing I did actually want to just mention is, if you have a neighbour who's elderly, perhaps, just check in on them, make sure that they're okay, that they're, having plenty of fluids, and that they're all right with you, because we have heard in London with the heat wave that there's been people that passing out because of the heat, because they haven't actually making sure that they've been drinking enough, or not putting things into place to help them with their physical health and the heat. All right. Thank you for listening to this video. Please do like, subscribe. Please do comment. Please do share. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Until then, look after your hearts and souls and keep cool.